Welcome to the Go Slow to Go Fast lifestyle podcast, the space where we breathe deeply, live more intentionally, and find meaning in the messy middle of life. I'm your host, Kendra Chapman, mom of triplets, busy professional, caffeine lover, and a big believer in slowing down so we can show up fully. If you're a busy human navigating career, family, life changes, or all of the above, you're in good company. Around here, we don't chase perfection. We build rhythms that support peace, clarity, and joy. And today, we're diving into a topic that is absolutely foundational to the Go Slow to Go Fast philosophy. I'm going to be talking with James Garland about vitamins and supplements, labels, and which ones we should be thinking about, especially if we're going through menopause or perimenopause, thinking about what's on your shopping list and how to choose those supplements and vitamins and what to watch out for. So, diving in a little bit deeper into James Garland, a certified professional health coach through the International Institute on Nutrition in New York. And he is also the vice president of marketing for Pure TheraPro RX, a dietary supplement out of Denver, Colorado that specializes in doctor-recommended, science-based, lab-tested health formulas made here in the United States of America without fillers, without GMOs, or other unwanted ingredients of any sort. James brings over 20 years of experience in the health and wellness field, and he's here to shed light on how we can make informed choices for our own health, particularly for women navigating perimenopause, menopause, or postmenopause years. So whether you're listening on your morning commute or folding laundry or sneaking in a few minutes with a cup of something warm, this space is just for you. So take a deep breath, let the world slow down for a minute, and let's get started. So James, thank you for being here and joining us on the Go Slow to Go Fast lifestyle podcast. It's a pleasure to have you here. And your journey in the health field and the wellness field is quite personal, and I want to hear more about that. But first, how are you, and what does Go Slow mean to you?
Kendra, I want to say thanks for having me, first of all. Yeah, I'm doing well, and it's been an interesting 20 years in this field and in this vertical. And to answer your question, what does Go Slow mean to me? You know, that's a great question because my life is pretty fast. I'm a father of two, husband, have a dog, busy, very busy with my career. And I think going slow for me means getting the kids to bed and just trying to wind down with my wife and maybe read a book or take a walk or something to, get away from the high pace of the day.
Yes, absolutely. We all need a little bit of that. So tell us a little bit more about your background and why you wanted to go into nutrition in the first place.
Sure. So, I'm 43 now. And I haven't always been 43. 20 years ago, when I was a young man, I think I was 22 or 23 years old. I was very fit. I considered myself good looking and active and healthy. My grandfather got me into health and wellness at a pretty young age. He was really into organics and supplements and different alternative treatments. And so I benefited from that greatly. And, I was running miles a day. And one day in the middle of Minnesota, I got bit by a mosquito, and I happened to get West Nile virus from this mosquito. And I was sick for weeks, fever, chills. I couldn't go to work for 14 days. Yeah, it was really uncomfortable. I went to the doctors. They had no idea what was the matter with me. After several blood tests and several weeks, they finally figured it out. But by then, it had already kind of run its course. And so that was, for me, that was the impetus or the health crises that steered me away from what I was paying attention to back then, which was, what are young guys interested in? Home theater, frisbee golf. But that was the impetus for me that really steered me toward health because I'd lost mine. And I was desperate to get it back.
Yeah, and that's such a powerful story because you really don't realize how lucky you are until you have a compromised health or lose your health in any,
Mhm.
particular capacity. So it's so powerful to hear.
Yeah, we really do take it for granted.
We do. And that wake up call for you, and for any of us who have felt that in our experience, the listeners out there, if you've had a health crisis, you know what we're talking about. But for anybody who's going through that right now, this is a show for you. So you can start thinking about taking those intentional steps for that long-term health and well-being. Hopefully you can get yourself back on track if you're going through something like that. But let's dive into the world of vitamins and thinking about supplements and, you know, what can help you feel better, getting you through that hump of that overwhelm. Because it's just there's just so much. Like, I personally, and I hate that you had to go through that experience of getting West Nile virus. I can't imagine. You would think it would be something like that you would get being in a remote area on another part of the world or in another
Mhm.
part of the world, but you got this in the United States.
Yeah, I
Um,
remember when it happened, I still to this day don't know how, but my roommate got a call from the newspaper, in the town I lived in, and they wanted to hear about it. And I had
wow.
no idea how they even found out, but it was an anomaly back then. This was, 20 years ago. I think there had only been like 7 or 9 cases or something in the
Wow.
United States, and maybe
Huh.
only one in Minnesota at that time. So yeah, it was very novel,
Mm,
very new, and it felt very strange. There were no answers. Yeah, it was very
mm.
strange.
Well, then I think it's meant to be that you're here to talk about that experience and how it's played out in your life. So, not that we want to wish anything like that on anybody, but I think you're here definitely to share that message. So, how did you fall into nutrition and wellness? What was your next step in thinking, like, this is what I want to do?
Sure. I'm not the most concise person, and so I'm going to try for you here to be concise,
No
but cut
worries.
me off if I'm rambling.
Yeah.
So, it's been a long journey. 20 years ago, as I said, I was really interested in home theater and I wanted to start my own installation company. I was obsessed with, Dolby Digital surround sound. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So that was my career path. And when this happened to me, I missed work for 2 weeks. Thankfully, my job took me back and everything was okay, but I was not okay. I mean, I was
Mm-hmm.
severely constipated, like horribly anemic, exhausted. I was freezing cold all day.
Mm.
I would have to go on my lunch breaks. I would have to go into my car and lay in my car with no air conditioner on, just to like a snake to heat back up, is what it felt
Wow.
like. It was really alien to me to feel that way because I was like so like hot and virile and young, and I just lost all of that.
Mm.
And so I knew that regaining my health and wellness was my mission in life at that point. And it made
Mm-hmm.
sense. I'd really lost my passion for home theater. I'll admit I still have it. But for being in that line of work, I'd lost that passion, and I had a new mission. And it was not just to get my health back, it was to get answers. It was to understand, like, once I lost my health, I became interested in what is health? Like, what
Mm-hmm.
is symbiosis and this state of being where we feel good, where our neurotransmitters are balanced, where our hormones are balanced, where all these chemicals in our body and all these organs that are doing all this work for us are all working in harmony and providing the opportunity to feel good and love your life. I did not feel good and I did not love my life at that point. And so I veered into health and wellness. I was researching, I was blogging, I was guest blogging on a famous doctor's website at the time, Dr. Diadamo. He had written the blood type diet books. You may have heard of him. And it occurred to me then, like, this is my passion now. This is my mission, and I just started applying for jobs in the field. And so I've been in health and wellness now for over 20 years. I've been in this vertical in one way or another, whether I was managing a health food store or a nutritionist taking clients and helping
Mm-hmm.
them get their health back. I worked as a medical assistant in a functional medicine doctor's office in Austin, Texas. After that, yeah, I've actually been involved in the marketing side of things, everything from copywriting to digital e-commerce marketing of dietary supplements, because I feel like that's where my talents are best used. And what I mean by that is I can blog all day long, and maybe a few hundred people will read it. But if I'm
Mm-hmm.
working for a company that's making a product that can help people get their health back, I feel like the best way I can spread that message is through digital marketing. And so, yeah, that's kind of my journey through this vertical, and it's why I do what I do, and it's why I think everyone has the option to do something else. We could all go into insurance sales or real estate
Mm-hmm.
or selling medical equipment to doctors and, whining and dining doctors and making $250,000 a year. None of that is interesting to me in the least. I
Mm-hmm.
feel very driven to be on the path I'm on and where I'm at.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation today. I think there are so many listeners out there like you and I, either they're going through something right now or they have, and they want to go back to feeling normal again, whatever that is for them. They want to
Mm-hmm.
feel like their best self. And so as soon as you start to feel differently, you want to get back to that spot. And it's not, I mean, for me, it's gut health. I really have to work on my gut and eating better,
Mm-hmm.
but also knowing what to look for when I'm looking for those supplements and vitamins, because, we're all, I'm going to speak for myself. I'm not going to speak in general terms. I definitely have been caught looking on social media and seeing somebody's testimony and then thinking, okay, they look great, or they're going through what I just went through, and so I want to buy whatever they're, selling, because maybe I can look and feel like they're portraying themselves right now. But it really is about finding what's best for you. So, what would be your advice in looking into that world of vitamins and supplements? Like, I just don't even know what to look for on those labels. And I think there are some, I'm sure with your vast experience in the medical profession and health and nutrition, you've seen it all. And what would be your advice on like what to look for and what to kind of keep an eye out for?
That's an excellent question. I'm going to start with telling you and all of your listeners that it's okay to feel like you've just landed on an alien planet. Once you, if you have a health crisis, whether that is entering menopause or, anything under the
Hmm.
menopause umbrella, or
Right.
you suddenly wake up one day and you have IBS or devastating gut health issues,
Hmm.
or maybe something else, maybe all of a sudden candida, overgrowth has wrecked your health or whatever it is. The first thing you're going to do is look for answers. And when you start looking for answers, it feels like you just stepped off a spaceship onto an alien planet. You can't read any of the signs. Everything's in another language, and that's okay.
Hmm.
You have every right to feel that way, because it really is. It's a whole new world. And
Hmm.
people and companies and influencers and products have been living in that world for a century, but you've
Right.
gotten there. So
Yes.
yeah, without some guidance, you're going to slip on a lot of banana peels when you first get on that when you arrive in this space where you're looking
Hmm.
for answers. And so my advice would be team up with a coach who has experience that you can trust, team up with a family member that, like I think many of us can relate to having that family member that's like, well, you shouldn't give your kids that baby formula, or well, you shouldn't buy that chicken, and maybe we thought they
Right.
were silly. That was my grandpa for me. Maybe we
Hmm.
thought they were a little kooky or silly growing up. It
Hmm.
turns out they had slipped on 100 banana peels, and they didn't want us to slip on those banana peels.
Right.
But unfortunately, we didn't care. We didn't care. We weren't ready to hear that message. And so, thank you, grandpa.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's my best advice is team up with a coach, a company, product, whatever it is for you that is trustworthy and that can help guide you through it, and that will give you answers and guidance based on wisdom and experience and actual knowledge in the field. And be very careful about
Hmm.
falling for, like you said, this beautiful, gorgeous influencer on Instagram is saying that these compression socks are going to clear my brain fog, or this new copper bracelet is going to,
Yes.
rebalance my hormones. That's often just a quick path to losing your money. And I will tell you, Kendra,
Hmm.
when I started slipping on banana peels, not to date myself too badly, but the internet was new back then. It was a bit of the Wild West. And frankly, people, especially guys trying to get their health back, there weren't really any resources for them. And the resources
Mm.
that were available were incredibly rife with like fraud and scammers and people just trying to get your money. And I will tell you, I tried everything. I tried fat, like I did the master cleanse for over 40 days.
Mm.
I became a vegan. I was a vegetarian for many years. I don't think any one of these things did me any good. In fact, many of the decisions I made and stuck with for years, I would say set me back a decade or
Mm.
uh,
Mm.
so yeah, I would find someone to partner with, and don't just partner with anybody. Partner with somebody who's been through it before, gotten their health back, or helped many other people get their health back. And when we can talk more about like supplements and vitamins, but if you
Hmm.
go buy supplements and vitamins, and I do think they're very powerful tools. Heck, I work for a supplement company. It's really important, and I say this not as a marketer. I say this as a human that's been through heck and doesn't want other people to go through that. Or if they are
Yeah.
going, wants to help lift them out. Don't just throw your money at any product. Like it's really easy to fall for marketing claims. Like I'm a marketer. People will say things that are grossly untrue to get you to part with your money. Maybe it's because their job is dependent on it. Maybe because their shareholders demand it of them. Whatever the reason, it's really
Mhm.
easy for a person to make the wrong choice and be insincere to get you to part with your money. And
Mhm.
is, we say it's the root of all evil. We say it's the path to happiness. There's so many ways to look at money, but I look at it as your energy. Like you had to part with your time and energy to earn that money. And now someone's asking you to part with that money. So what we spend our time and energy on, it needs to be something real. It needs to be something true, something that we
Mhm.
know will work. And yeah, it's not always the easiest to find what that is.
Yeah. And, our purpose here today is not to sell a product to the listeners. It's just to get you to be thinking more about what you are buying and
Yep.
what you're putting into your body, because I've been there and I've got things right now in my cabinet that I probably should never have purchased and I've stopped taking. And so I probably need to throw them away because they didn't make me feel any better.
Mhm.
Um, for whatever reason. So, I've done it with makeup, I've done it with dietary supplements, I've done it with vitamins. And so just thinking, and we had our pre-chat before the interview, you talked a little bit about the Food and Drug Administration and how they have all these strict laws that govern, what can and cannot be said about supplements, which is a whole new world for me. Like, I don't know anything about that. And I know you do. So I'd love to hear more about that. And then also, there was, you mentioned something about that Dietary Supplement Health Education Act. Thought that
Yep.
was really interesting. So can you
Yeah.
shed a little bit more light on that?
Sure. So I'll start with the first question, the FDA. Now that's
Mm-hmm.
wow, that's a big candy bar to unwrap. And
Mm.
there's a lot of my apologies to anyone from the FDA listening today, but unfortunately, that is an agency that is rife with, I would say, fraud and confusion and good intentions.
Mhm.
It's not that they're all bad people working there,
Mhm.
certainly, but unfortunately, there's maybe some bad eggs that have steered us the wrong way, and perhaps that's been due to lobbyists from Coca-Cola and cereal companies that are paying to steer the science a certain way.
Mm.
So, with regard to the FDA and nutrition labeling, they use a program called RDA or RDI, recommended daily intake, recommended daily
Mhm.
allowance. And
Mhm.
so, some of the products that you mentioned, perhaps it's a calcium or an iron or a magnesium, whatever it is, the dosage of that nutrient is often dependent or informed by FDA's RDA. So the Food and Drug Administration sets a recommended daily allowance. These numbers, these recommended daily allowances came from World War II science back in 1941. Last I checked, that was over 80 years ago. And it's not the best science. And
Right.
unfortunately, even back then, we had sugar industry lobbyists and vegetable oil industry lobbyists and other big agra and big pharmaceutical lobbyists influencing the government with money to get them to set certain standards. And the RDA set those standards often at levels that are far too low to achieve optimal health.
Mm.
So, like, just for instance, here's maybe some factoids that your audience would find interesting, especially for, I would say, anyone under the menopausal umbrella. They set the recommended daily intake for iron at, I'm probably going to get the numbers wrong. They're not fresh in my head.
Mhm.
But they set the iron intake at 8 milligrams a day, when really a premenopausal woman or menopausal woman might be better on 18 milligrams a day.
Mhm.
The reason they did that is because this science, like I said, it was World War II science. It was born out of the desire to make sure a soldier didn't get a disease. And
Mm.
so the minimum amount of iron required for a soldier to not get anemia, that's the amount that they would set the RDA at, just a little above that. So, like, if the human body needed 7 milligrams a day, oh, we'll set it at 8, and that way they won't get anemia. They did something similar with vitamin D3. The recommended daily allowance for vitamin D3 is based on lab values from World War II science and soldiers. And they found that, okay, if these soldiers have blood levels between 20 and 50 nanograms per milliliter of blood, then
Mm.
they won't get a disease called rickets, and their mental health will be a little better.
Mhm.
That's not optimal health. That's the minimum you need not to spiral, like, not to, like, self-destruct.
Right. Right.
Having lab values between 60 and 80, or in some people even higher, is where optimal blood levels would be. That's where we
Mm,
the minimum levels of D3, it was really just to avoid rickets, which is like a skeletal disease.
mm,
But if you only have enough D3 to take care of your skeleton, then you don't have enough to take care of your ovaries, your hormones, your brain health, your mood, your immune system. And so if we want to function optimally, our bodies, I think, I don't have the view that we're machines, but
right.
our bodies operate kind of like a machine where they need a certain amount of fuel, a certain amount of oil, a certain amount of lubrication, a certain amount of water, a certain air pressure and temperature that they work best at. And if we don't give them all of that in the optimal rate,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, then our bodies are going to function suboptimally. And like many of us who have had a health crisis, whether that was like autoimmunity, or having hormones way out of whack and just experiencing the absolute worst menopause has to offer. It could be a beautiful time, it could be a miserable time. And it really depends
Right.
on where are our progesterone and estradiol and estrogen and our immune system and our inflammatory status. All of those play a role in how we're going to experience it, how we're going to feel, how we're going to come out of it. Uh, so yeah, that's in a nutshell where RDI and RDA came from, was World War II science and giving humans just enough of a nutrient to avoid a catastrophic disease, but nowhere near enough to actually feel their best and function optimally. And like I said, part of that was like budget, part of it was lobbyist dollars, part of it is just it's 80 years ago. They've updated it a few times in 68 and 89. It's had some good changes to like magnesium levels and whatnot, but most of it is still woefully inadequate. And that's why there's a thing called optimal daily intake.
Mm,
Optimal daily intake is not endorsed by the government. Who it's endorsed by is like functional medicine physicians, the real frontline workers, doctors out there that are running labs on their patients and determining, this has been going on since 1991 with the advent of functional medicine. These doctors are figuring out what is the optimal amount of a nutrient for a human, and not just a human. We're
mm-hmm.
right. Like if you
Right.
in sub-Saharan Africa, or you live in northern Minnesota, or you're a male, or you're a female, or you're a 50-year-old male, or a 20-year-old female, everybody has a different optimal daily intake. And
Mm-hmm.
if you had a disease or have a disease, if you have a gut condition or an inflammatory condition, those amounts can change. And so I don't want to intimidate anyone, but this is why I feel it's so important to work with a partner who can help you identify what's best for you if you're like if you're in a disease state. And if you're not in a disease state, just make sure you're choosing a product that was formulated based on ODI and doesn't have other things in it that can, potentially do you harm.
Okay. Well, I that's a lot of information to take in, and it makes sense now that I think about it, because, there's just been so many studies, unfortunately, that just haven't caught up to where we are now. There's
Hmm.
like all this science, most recent, just the conversation around menopause and the data and the science that we have on that hasn't caught up to hormone replacement therapy
Yep.
practices. I mean, there's just so much in medicine right now that is probably going to be changing in the next few years. And I know like this much. And for those of you out there that are watching, the YouTube video, you can see I'm like very little bit. But if you're just listening to this, I think what you said, it's the labels and the science and the dietary supplement numbers, the RDI and the ODI, woefully
Yeah, the RDI
inaccurate
is woefully inadequate, is I think the way I worded it. Yeah, and
and
it really is like
inadequate.
if
Yes.
you just eat a standard American diet,
Mhm.
fortified with like, the wrong kind of vitamin D and not enough of it. Yeah, I would say that unless you have incredible luck in genetics, be
Yeah.
impossible to feel great by the time you hit 40. And the idea that you would still feel great and be disease free and experience like a blissful menopause at age 52, I would say it's out of the equation in today's
Right.
America. A
Right.
100 years ago, when our soil wasn't depleted and we ate healthier without all these industrial chemicals and seed oils,
Right. And the
it was
food we
achievable.
grew.
Yeah, yeah. It was
Yeah.
achievable back then.
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
achievable now unless you're really making choices to eat eat better, eat cleaner,
Mm-hmm.
avoid certain ingredients, and take supplements. I do want to touch
Yeah.
on when I said depleted soil. I'll just
Mm-hmm.
give a quick anecdote here. They've done studies where they'll look at the amount of like vitamin A or vitamin C in an orange grown in Florida in say 1955, right? Like we have that data.
Right.
But when we look at in 1989 or in 2023, the same amount of, I shouldn't say the same amount, those same nutrients, vitamin A and
Mm-hmm.
vitamin C in an orange,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's like multiples lower. So like 300% less of the nutrient, right? Like you would
Mm-hmm.
have to eat 5 oranges in
You're right.
2023 to equal the vitamin A of 1 orange in 1955. That, Kendra, that's shocking.
It is
And
shocking.
when you look at trace minerals like boron, zinc, essential minerals like magnesium and calcium, like there's
Yeah.
so many nutrients that we are not getting enough. Even if you ate all organic, the soil's depleted,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one of the reasons why I'm a proponent of using dietary supplements to fill in those gaps and get us closer to the ODI, the optimal daily intake of these
Mm-hmm.
nutrients.
And even if you know a little bit more than more than me, and maybe you don't know as much as James does, for those listeners out there that are trying to figure out these labels, it's, hopefully by the end of this episode, you'll have a little bit more of an understanding of what to look for. So could we get into that a little bit more, James? Like, what should we be? Like, you can talk about women going through menopause, because that is kind of what I wanted you to talk about more, because that is what I'm going through right now, and I need to feel better. And I know that, like when I was pregnant with my triplet boys, I was taking all those, vitamins that you take when you're
The
pregnant. And
prenatals.
the prenatals, they made me feel so great. And so I thought maybe I should start doing that, just taking prenatal vitamins. But you got to really know what you're looking for and think about what you're going through in the moment to help your body. So
Mhm.
could you speak a little bit about maybe a woman going through perimenopause or menopause, but then maybe just overall health too?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing I want to touch on is you said you were pregnant with triplets, which is amazing, by the way.
Yeah, thank
Congratulations.
you. Thank you.
And, having been in this vertical for over 20 years and working in health food stores in the aisles, selling products to people just like,
Mhm.
I cannot tell you how many times I've heard that same testimony, that same anecdote.
Mhm.
And I have been flown all over the country, Canada, Utah, California, Florida, Chicago. I've been all over the country, wined and dined by dietary supplement companies because
Mhm.
when you work for a big chain health food store that sells, millions of dollars in supplements a year, they want to sway you a certain way. And I
Sure.
understand that. Marketing
Yeah.
101.
Mhm.
And I will tell you, these companies, they bring in some of the most famous, like well-respected naturopaths and natural doctors, surgeons. And I had the blessing and the privilege to be lectured by many of them over days. I won't list all their names right now. I don't think that'd be interesting. But one of the best pieces of advice that they ever gave me
Mhm.
for any woman under that menopause umbrella was to have them take a prenatal, not a regular
Mm.
vitamin, a prenatal. And the reason why they said to do that, like the succinct reason, is multivitamins. They're so small, right? Like for
Mhm.
those of you watching the YouTube, it's just a tiny tablet. Sometimes it's a bit of a horse pill. But what
Yeah.
I'm getting at is you couldn't possibly fit 3 meals worth of a nutrient into like a few tablets, right? That's just like it's unheard of.
Mhm.
And so they often don't have nearly enough iron, manganese, zinc, boron, iodine, not nearly enough. And when you're pregnant or when you're under the menopause umbrella,
Mhm.
your diet is often a little bit compromised because maybe you have food aversions or maybe your appetite is, right now I want to eat ice cream and a bowl of cereal, but at dinner time I'm not hungry at all.
Yeah.
Or the thought of meat just sounds yucky to me today. Or maybe you don't eat meat for other reasons. All of these contribute to nutritional deficiencies or insufficiencies. A nutritional deficiency is like a clinical, hey, we're looking at your blood work and it's way below a certain level, right?
Mm.
But the problem with that deficiency definition is that, again, it's based on the FDA, the medical system's definition of what's not enough. So for you, Kendra, like, I'll just take like a trace mineral like manganese. They might never say you're deficient, but
Mhm.
compared to the ODI, you might need 10 times more than you're getting. And
Right.
so for women that are menopausal, that are trying to navigate this, that are trying to find like a product that works for them or how to look at labels, I would say consider a prenatal, or even better, consider a multivitamin that's methylated and has nutrients in their active form.
Mm.
What a lot of people don't realize is that, B vitamins or vitamin A or vitamin D, there's many different forms of these vitamins. It's not just a vitamin D. Well, there's D1, D2, D3,
Yeah.
ergocalciferol, cholecalciferol. Sometimes you can get it from cod liver oil. Sometimes it comes from sheep's wool oil.
Mm.
It's really dirty. Other times it can come from algae or pine. And all of these things matter. Like, where is it from and how much is in there? And so again, I'm gonna kind of pitch
Mm-hmm.
the idea that go with the company that knows this, that understands this. You'll be able to tell who they are by reading their blog, by checking out their social media, right? If they're not talking about these things, it's because they probably don't know about it. And
Mm.
that should concern you. So I would say if that's your supplement company, if that's your vitamin company, find a new one. Back to the multivitamin. Yeah, take a prenatal for the amounts, right? And if that weirds you out, I would highly consider it's a better option, although it's a little bit more expensive, a methylated multivitamin. You might, if you
Mm.
listen to Gary Brecka or any nutritionist podcast, or even something like Joe Rogan, these people often talk about methylated nutrients because of how absorbable and bioavailable and
Mm-hmm.
usable by the body they are.
Right.
Most multivitamins, especially for pregnant women and menopausal women, do not have methylated B vitamins. They
Hmm.
include folic acid instead of methylated folate, or they include cyanocobalamin B12, which is from coal tar cyanide, instead of methylcobalamin B12, which is the type that your body can absorb right away, not toxic, not needing to be processed by your liver. It's just immediately usable by your brain and your body and your organs.
Mm.
So again,
So I'm going to stop you for a minute, James. So you're saying you're spilling some tea here right now. That
mhm,
means probably the pills the vitamins and supplements I have in my cabinet right now that don't make me feel good is because I'm not absorbing them in my body.
yeah. Or Kendra,
Most likely.
I will spill a little tea here. Maybe your audience will find this interesting. A lot. I'll just go ahead and say it. And this isn't. I want to very stress here that this is not
Yeah.
marketing. It's just what
Right.
I've discovered over 20 years. My founders know this. The people I work with know this. A lot of people know this, right? Like, if you work in the NHL, you know everything about hockey. But if you don't work in the NHL, you probably
Yeah.
know very little.
Right.
I work in dietary supplements. And so, I know who are the good guys, who are the really bad guys, who are the guys that aren't
Mm.
trying to be bad, but they just don't know any better. Like, not
Mm-hmm.
everybody that gets in a car wreck is a bad driver. They
Right.
just made a mistake. They went the wrong way on a one way, probably a
Yeah.
bad analogy, but I'm the king of those. So let me spill a little tea. Yes, a lot of the products that you buy and take, I'm going to use the word poisonous because they are in
Mm.
fact toxic to your body. They put more of a burden on your body than any benefit they provide. So when you go to the health food store or go on Amazon or Shopify, where you Google shopping, wherever you go, and you
Mm-hmm.
purchase a vitamin D3 or a calcium because your doctor told you to take calcium, or a it's very likely, in fact, it's statistically likely that you're purchasing a product that won't work for you.
Mm.
The reason is that most vitamins are made with the wrong forms of nutrient, most vitamins and minerals. Like, take magnesium, for instance. Most magnesium supplements sold in the United States, and most of these, like, people my age and younger grew up with the internet. And I would say because of that, they grew up maybe a little more skeptical and a little bit more, you know,
Mm-hmm.
apt to research products. And so they'll often, I would say, do a little bit more research. But a lot of times what happens is your doctor says, okay, Kendra, I want you to take a calcium supplement. And so
Right.
you go to the health food store on the way home from the doctor and
Right.
you say to the employee there, my doctor said I need 1,200 milligrams of calcium.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll take you to the shelf where there's 1,010 different products, and they're going to point to the one they like, which is
Yeah.
often the one that the supplement company wined and dined them and told you to take. But it's
Mm-hmm.
often, if it's made with like calcium carbonate or magnesium oxide, a lot of times those absorb, they're less than 4% bioavailable. So if you take 1,200 milligrams, maybe you're absorbing 50
Mm.
milligrams. The other 1,100 is having to be filtered out of your blood by your kidneys, processed through the liver. And then now it's going into your intestines where it might be very constipating, or in the case of magnesium oxide, very diuretic.
Mm-hmm.
They can, they can waste your money. They can make you sicker than you felt already. They can mess with your bowels, your kidneys, your liver, and they can mess with you in ways you don't even realize. Like, you're trying to get ready for a big test the next day. So you might be trying to focus on something the next day and have horrible brain fog and not realize like, why can I not focus today? It could be taking the wrong kind of B vitamin, the wrong kind of magnesium. I could talk for hours about this, but I know we don't have that kind of time.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm just going through my mind thinking, I've learned enough to listen to my body where I just stop taking things and just see, let me stop taking this supplement for a week and just see how I feel. And then if I feel better, then I just don't take it anymore. But other than that, then I'm like, okay, let me revisit because I need to go back to the drawing board and figure out what will work. And so
Mhm.
that's kind of, where many of our listeners probably are thinking about what to look for in their labels when they go to purchase something. So, you've given us a lot to think about. And I'm wondering if there's anything else that we need to be thinking about when we go to buy those supplements before we make that purchase.
Yeah, I'll say again, partner with a company or a coach that can help you find the right product for you.
Mm-hmm.
If partnering with a coach, I think for most people it's not in the cards. Maybe it's just not in the finances, or we don't have
Yeah.
time in the day, or we feel like we don't need it. Like I personally
Right.
don't feel like I need it. In that case, look for companies, like I said, that have an educational blog
Mm-hmm.
that talk to you about the ingredients they use and the ingredients they don't use. So when you say what else should we be looking for on the label, one thing I would challenge your listeners to and your viewers to look at is the other ingredients section. You can do this right after our call. You can go look at the other ingredients, and that is often a laundry list of binders, fillers, excipients. These are ingredients that are added to supplements, not to make them work better, not to make you feel better. It's to make them more economical to manufacture, because this is a business, like
Mm-hmm.
the people selling you a calcium supplement, they're often not doing it because they want you to feel better. They're doing it because they want you to purchase their commodities so they can make more money.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the other ingredients and it says things like titanium dioxide, magnesium stearate, silicon dioxide, methyl cellulose wood pulp, then you need to ask yourself, why is titanium in my CoQ10 supplement?
Mm-hmm.
Or why is carnauba wax, which is, what we waxed our cars with in the 1970s, why is that in my vitamin C tablet? Why
Mm-hmm.
is magnesium stearate, which is an acid made from, generally it's called stearate because it came from steers, right? Cattle.
Mm-hmm.
And they would boil down the bones to make glue and separate the acid and powder it and sell it as a filler to dietary supplement companies and food manufacturers. Why are those ingredients in my product? You do this with your nutrition labels too. When you're buying tortillas, when you're buying curry powder, whatever it is that your listeners are buying at the grocery food store, look at the ingredients label. You have to do the same thing with a supplement label. You've got to look at the other ingredients. So even if you're not an expert and you don't know, like, should I be taking M-methyl tetrahydrofolate? Is that the right folate?
Right.
So that's where ask the customer service department of the supplement company. Like
Mm-hmm.
if they're on Amazon, it can be tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Find their website and message them and just ask them, why did you choose this form? Can you help educate me? I'm not trying to grill you here. They should be ready and willing to tell you exactly why they chose that form and why they didn't choose another form and why that's the best one. And you should be able to look at the other ingredients section and see there's not a bunch of toxic garbage in this product.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, just to say, I'm not marketing my company. I take a lot of different companies' products. My founders do too. We don't make a fish oil, for instance, and I take fish oil every day. And I would encourage most people to do the same. But it's very important. Like, where did that fish come from? What type of fish is it? Is this from sharks in the Asian Ocean? Like, are they full of mercury and aluminum? Is it tested for those metals?
Mm-hmm.
of these things matter. And so I would look at the company's marketing, look at their educational blog, message their customer service team before you purchase it if you're inclined to do so.
Mm-hmm.
If you have questions that you want answered, and look at the other ingredients section on the label. So when you're on an Amazon listing or you're on a product listing on a Shopify website, often one of the photos in the image carousel will be the nutritional label of the supplement.
Right.
That's the most important picture on the entire website. It
Mm-hmm.
shows you how much of this is in there and what's in there, what form is it in, and what other junk did they slip in. As I said, those
Mm-hmm.
toxic ingredients like titanium dioxide, magnesium stearate, they're not put in there to make you feel better. They're put in there to make it cheaper and easier to manufacture. And they're also put in there to make it more visually appealing to a customer. So when I open my CoQ10 soft gels from a brand I won't mention,
Mm-hmm.
made with titanium dioxide, that's to make the soft gels opaque. It's to make them look better. They put that junk in sunscreen. You shouldn't be taking
Right.
titanium.
Ingesting it.
Yeah, we all know
Yeah.
heavy metals aren't good for us. Mercury, aluminum,
Right.
not good for you. Even too much copper is a bad thing. So yeah,
Hmm.
look at
Hmm.
that. And when you see that on the label, I'm not saying throw it across the room, but immediately ask yourself, is there another zinc without all that junk? And that maybe is better researched, a better form, has cofactors that help it work better
Mm-hmm.
without all the junk in there and that I can trust. That's why it's so important for me, a supplement. I'm a supplement guy, a supplement nut,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you call us. That's why it's so important for me to like only work for a company that does it the way we do it. And there are other companies out there that I would say with a similar commitment to quality. So it's not like we're the only
Mm-hmm.
company in the world that's good at this. There's plenty others out there.
Yeah, no, you've given me a lot to think about, and I'm sure the listeners as well, because I can think back multiple years where I've heard make sure you can read all the ingredients and pronounce them when you're shopping for
Mhm.
whatever you're looking for, where it's coming from. Is it locally, shipped in, or is it coming from another part of the world? All those things. Is it in season? We think about that with fresh produce. We think about that with organic produce, but have we really looked at our supplements and vitamins? I know I haven't. So
I think most people have it, Kendra.
this has been very enlightening for me. I'm going to start looking really closely at my labels. And it is work, it takes a minute. You've got to know what you're looking for. So James, you've been very helpful in kind of pinpointing what to look for and what to think about, but also, it gives us just some reminders of like, if you're going to put it into your body, you need to be thinking about before you take that sip of water and then take those vitamins and supplements. What are you putting into your body? Can you
Yeah.
read the label?
I think sometimes you won't. Like I said, methyl tetrahydrofolate, that's not everybody's favorite word, but it is the best form of folate in the world.
Okay.
So with a supplement label, you may not always be able to read it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
But if you don't know what it is, if a helpful, trusted resource hasn't told you, this is what this is and this is why it's in here,
Mm-hmm.
go to your health food store, find that gal or that guy that works there that's just as passionate as I am. We're
Mm-hmm.
every, I'm not a unique individual in this regard. We're all over the place. I would say every health food store has somebody similar to me who has just been researching this for decades and can tell you
Mm-hmm.
all about the different forms. I wish I could impart my entire knowledge set to everyone in the country, but it would take weeks, which is why I haven't told you, here's the type of magnesium, here's the type of D3,
Right.
here's the type of calcium. We'd be here for hours
Yeah.
and no one would remember what I said. But if I can ask your audience, especially your menopausal audience, to remember anything, it's that you're worth getting the best for your body. And that doesn't mean,
Mm-hmm.
when we think about the best, we think about like the Mercedes, the Louis Vuitton. The best does not have to break the bank. Often the best is more affordable because it's not rip-off multi-level marketing,
Mm.
powered by millionaire influencers, Kardashian influencers, right?
Over enginered and all the things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like sometimes the best is $17 or $40 or $50, not $1,000 hyperbaric
Right.
chamber. So if I can get your audience to remember anything, it would be look at the label,
Mm-hmm.
look at the other ingredients section, ask about whether it's in the health food store or you're emailing the people at the company who care about you, what it is and why it's in there. and get educated, right? Like we're
Right.
here to educate you. Other companies, I'm sure, that are doing it the right way want to help educate you. And you're going to find out really fast when you call or email a company and ask them about the ingredients and why they're in there,
Mm-hmm.
who knows what they're talking about and who cares and who's quick to respond to you. Like you'll find out really quickly, should I be spending my money with this company? That's my belief anyway.
No, that's amazing advice, and I think many of our listeners are going to get ready to just go right to their cabinets after this episode and check out their labels. I know I will.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. You're worth it.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it, right? Because if we're looking for the best footwear and the best whatever, luggage for our next trip, why not look for the best supplements for our bodies too?
I'd rather feel good on my next trip than have a good looking suitcase, wouldn't you?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, especially as we get up there in age, but
Yeah,
that's just my perspective.
mine too.
Yes. Well, James, thank you for being here today. Thank you for having this conversation with me. I think I think many of our listeners today are going to have some takeaways as well to kind of add into their routine and their life. And the next time they make a purchase for their health, I'm hoping that they'll remember your advice today. And if there's anything else that you want to share before we conclude this conversation, jump in, let me know.
Yeah, no, Kendra, I appreciate your time. I think it's been a great conversation. I wish I could impart more of my wisdom, just from decades of experience in this space. I think you all know where to find me if you if you have any questions. But yeah, that's. I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
That's it for today's episode of the Go Slow to Go Fast Lifestyle Podcast. I hope you feel inspired and empowered by James's message and wisdom to take proactive steps towards your own well-being. And now I'd love to hear from you. What's one new thing that you learned about supplements or health labels today? Or what's one intentional step that you're going to take this week to optimize your health? I know I'm going to go check my cabinet right now and all the labels of the things that I've purchased for my health and well-being and just see, is anything lining up that I need to keep based on how I feel and what James has shared today? So let's keep the conversation going. You can connect with James and Pure TheraPro if you're interested to know more by visiting their website at PureThera.com. That's PureThera.com. And you can join their email list for valuable health insights. Follow them on Instagram at PureThera and Facebook at /PureThera.com. You can also find them on X or Twitter. And as a special thank you to our listeners, James has a discount code for you. If you use Kendra15 at PureThera.com for a special discount of 15% off your first purchase. This is for listeners only. And of course, you can always connect with me using my email, coachingwithKendraChapman@gmail.com. You can visit me on my website. And you can also check me out on Instagram. And all that information will be in my show notes. I want to hear more about what's going on with you, how you're navigating this wellness journey. And I hope that you'll share this episode with a friend or everyone that you know who is also dealing with their health and wellness journey. And about 10% of you were following the show, so I hope that you'll click follow so you can stay updated when new episodes come out. And that will just help us reach more people too and help this podcast grow. So let's walk through this season together, whatever that looks like, with confidence, purpose, and a little extra grace. And I hope that you'll stay connected and keep listening. And remember, go slow, be intentional, and embrace your season. And remember, the light in me honors the light in you. And as you head into the rest of your week, I hope that you let your light shine through. Remember to go slow to go fast, and thanks for listening.